Well, as you can see, some of the condition that some of these pieces are in, there's old, and it just comes a point in time when you say, you know what, time to re-up. So everything I had was looking ratty. Not that it was out in the weather or the direct sunlight. It got about maybe a couple hours of sunlight a day, and then the roof shaded it, but over time, and the thing is that it still works perfectly, but with me, I don't know how it is with you, but with me, whenever I cut corners and say, yeah, I'll get to it later, meanwhile, 10 years goes by, I always get caught in a lurch. I go to do a project, and right in the middle of it, oh my God, now I got to go do the Oxy-Acetylene thing, and they don't have it in stock, and it's got to be ordered, and your one-day project, your time, you're all ready to go, and now it's a week or two before you get everything in. So it's best to do it when your time is idle, and you don't need to depend on the old. But like I mentioned, it still works. So I'm going to keep it to set up another Oxy-Acetylene setup, because all I'll need is the tanks, and at another location, an outbuilding or down the road, or who knows, next farm over, whatever. But things change, and the condition of your stuff changes, and over time it doesn't function as well as it should. It's not top notch. So in this case, I decided to bite the bullet. Now, hooking all of this up to your gas lines, it can all be done with a wrench, and you just have to snug it up, with the exception of right in here and right in here. Anything you screw onto here, there's two O-rings. If you use a wrench, you run the risk of splitting those O-rings and having a leak, which could lead to a fire and an injury to you. So those go on hand tight. But almost everything else, every other connection, you can use a wrench where you can snug it up. Don't go crazy cranking it. You just snug it up, make sure it's tight, make sure it doesn't leak. You want to test the leak after the gas is on, then hot soapy water on the connection. It'll bubble if there's a leak. And whether you've got a cutting torch, or you're using this rosebud here to heat metal up, get something cherry hot, or you're using this brazing tip, the short brazing tip, there's a long brazing tip, they all screw onto this, and they all have to be hand tight. No wrench. You don't want to split those O-rings, just hand tight, make sure it doesn't leak, and go about your business. So what you're trying to achieve here is to have all your connections clean, no debris, starting from the beginning to the end. So if you go to the tank and just crack the tank, if there's anything there, which there shouldn't be because you would have picked it up with a cap on it, it'll clean that out. So that'll be clean. Then you just got to go and check every connection, and where the regulator fits onto the tank itself, that obviously that's got to be clean, because if there's any debris and the connection is caulked in any way, there can be a leak, and that's not good. It just wastes your material or your gas, and you don't want to be going through it quicker than you need to. And as you can see on these brand new regulators, they've changed a lot. The size of the regulator, as far as viewing how much gas and pressure we have, is like twice the size, so a lot easier to see. And when you've got it all connected and you're going to turn the gas on, it's best to unwind these off. And then, you'll bring them in slow like this, and the gas is on. And then that's when the needles on the gauges will start to move. So you put it where you want it, which is usually about 20 to 25 on the oxygen, and about 4 to 6 on the acetylene. And when you do that, when you turn the valve on the gas tank, you don't want to be standing in front of the gauges, and you don't want your hand cupped over this part like this. You don't want your hand there. So just finger tip it, and in case anything goes wrong and it explodes from pressure, because it's like 2,000 pounds pressure on that oxygen tank. Yeah, you don't want anything going on. So and likewise, when you're ending the use and you're not going to be using it, you're putting it up, wind these off. It just saves on them. And when you go to turn on the tank again, it's off. So there's pressure there, but you've got to get into it by winding it down and then adjust it where you want it. But if you do that every time you finish using it, wind those off, they'll last a lot longer and it's a lot safer. And when you're turning your tanks on, they come with this cap. When you pick it up, it has a cap, and when you take it back, you have to have the cap, or they charge you $5. So anyway, get this off of here, and don't turn the valve on with your hand like that. Put your hand like that in case it blows off of there. See, that's why they have the cap, in case this comes off of here at 2,000 pounds per square inch pressure. And the cap screws on to the top of it, and that's why they insist that when you bring it back, it has to have a cap. But don't put your hand like this. It'll go right through your hand and blow your hand right off. So turn it on like this, making sure that you're not facing the gauges either on the regulator. So they're totally not pointed at your body or your face in any way. And you can end up with tanks. There's tanks for everything. Oxy-Acetylene, tank for TIG, tank for MIG. When you're turning oxy-acetylene on, you want to turn the oxygen tank on full. And you want to turn the acetylene tank, you only want to turn that on a half to 1 turn at the most. Reason being, if something goes wrong, you can reach over there and turn that oxy-acetylene off. Oxygen is going to be fine, but what's burning is the acetylene. So make sure you know which tank you're setting up to. Now, acetylene tanks used to be red, now they're black. So things do change. And MIG and TIG, you can get mixed up because they both say argon, but one's straight argon and one's an argon mix. So, a 75-25 mix. So make sure you're hooking up to the right tank. And if it's your very first time using oxy-acetylene and you don't know a thing about it, for those of you that are out there, most of these guys out there, they know. If it's your first time, you need to get some help. You need someone hands-on to show you exactly what to do step by step. And you can, you might be able to get help over the phone. Whatever you need help with, make sure you get it before you start messing with this stuff. So if you're wondering what set of regulators you put on the tank, the acetylene right here, it's got nicks cut into the point of the hex. It also has a male thread. Here's the oxygen. It's a female thread. You can't get those screwed up. But that's why they did it that way and marked it so that you would know which regulator goes on what.